Franco Segarra, Head of Data Analytics, Ticketing and Fan Experience at Valencia CF. Welcome to the Sports Tech World Series European Conference.
Hi, Thomas. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Great to have you involved. And where are you calling in from today? Are you in Valencia at the moment?
Yes, I'm in fact in Valencia now. So we've just started going back to work this morning. So now I'm back working from home this afternoon. But yes, sunny Valencia.
Beautiful. So today's discussion is going to center a lot around the digital transformation that Valencia, as a very old traditional football club, has gone through over the past few years, and your role within that. So, I mean, first of all, how do you promote that kind of digital transformation? How do you promote that culture? How do you promote a data-driven culture within the club?
Okay, so yeah, a bit of a feedback background of Valencia. As you say, it's pretty old. Last year we turned 100 years old, basically. So yeah, that's really, really old. We've got a stadium which is 97 years old. It was built in 1923. And the way we do that, there has been a great project since the start. There has been many people participating in that project. And mainly I'd say the senior management had the view, we've got ownership from Singapore. They had the view that they believe data had a big say in the data transformation. So that's when I came abroad, I was working in UK at the time, and I got into the club in June 2018. The way I got into the club is because I had a proposal also in terms of data analytics and the way of measuring stuff. One of the big things I realized in football, it may happen still to some other clubs, but it was that it was not a really data-driven organization. If you come from banking, for example, that's something that you can immediately know and you can immediately taste, because there's banking, for example, there's a place that everything is based on numbers. Whereas in football or soccer, people tend to think that it's much more difficult to work those numbers. I mainly work on the sport, not on the sports side of the organization, so not on the performance and so on. I work on the company side. Basically, it just works like a company, like any other company. It's just that it has a lot of other tools, like you've got e-commerce, you've got ticketing, you've got many different companies inside one company. So basically, I do believe that data has a big say in that. And senior management happily also thought that. So that's the way I joined the club in the past.
Yeah, so you've been brought in to bring that data-driven viewpoint and culture. What was the process of highlighting from just updating processes versus like really hammering it home as a culture? So kind of like a top-down, because obviously you can come in and just introduce a whole suite of different data analytics tools. But if that's not the way that people think, the actual buy-in and the effectiveness isn't going to be very high. Can you step us through
Yes.
how you actually implemented that?
Yes, totally. It is exactly as you say. So usually you can just come and bring a lot of data tools and so on, and probably the known data people would just look you different and say, hey, what is this guy exactly doing? The good thing is that data, as you say, is horizontal for the organization. So data is not, it's a department, or it's a way of viewing things that affects every single one of those vertical departments that you've got in the organization. And by vertical, I mean, I don't know, you can have business department, you can have finance department, you can have IT, you can have so many vertical departments. So I was lucky enough that when I came, I also said, I'm already aware that owning a data horizontal department, I will need cooperation from the vertical leaders of those departments. So what the senior management also did was give me a couple of those vertical departments, like for example, customer success, right? Customer success also measures the qualitative side of things, while data measures the quantitative side of things. So basically, I just tried based on the customer success way of working and the fan experience. I tried to deploy these tools as soon as possible and get some quick wins, like for example, trying and measuring all the touch points, try and learning from what the fans said to us. How can we reduce the amount of, let's say, queries that the fans send to us? by not only making clear approaches to them and statements to them, but also trying to be faster on the responses, trying to avoid duplications and so on. So that was all based on data. So that data-driven culture was already installed from the start on that department, and that proved that it had meaning not only to that department, but for the rest of them. So I say that deploying fast and obtaining those quick wins in terms of business insight that I was able to deliver when I started was the key for management to, for example, give me the opportunity to also manage ticketing department, which is, again, one of the departments that has the most to do with data, basically. So yeah, it is about the mentality. So the way of making people think different. It's, I'd say, what I've managed to learn is that you need to prove to them that this is just working. It's not just the theory, but also you in practice have to deliver some insights, meaningful insights. Otherwise, they're not going to believe you. Unfortunately, this is how it works.
So working with a niche or a smaller part of the business, showing traction, showing wins, showing that your way of applying data, the analysis of it, and then the outcomes from it yields results, and then having the opportunity to work on different areas, larger areas, and kind of, yeah, trying to, what's the phrase? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Kind of go along,
Yes.
segment it down.
Yes,
and then move on to something bigger, like ticketing, as you said.
Yes, definitely. That's the way. I found out that proving myself, and even if they were small things, you already gave the importance to data that others were not seeing initially in the present. And by looking, hey, you know, this guy, he has proven some points here by using this data thing. Why not? I might speak with this guy and see if he can help me also. It seems he's kind of okay with data, so why not let him look at my, I don't know, my business thing here, and I will help. It's just very little things. Just for example, just so that you see one very small example that proved very good. So for when we turned 100 years old, we decided as a club to give a gift to all our fans. We've got 40,000 season ticket holders, so we say we turn 100 years old only once in a lifetime. So why don't we give them one flag? No, we designed the flag in honor of our 100th year birthday. But the thing is, how can you deliver 40,000 flags? We decided to do that on 3 different matches, right? So because not everyone attends every single match. So what we did is, okay, let's deliver those flags in each of those matches. So again, we said, okay, so if we want to deliver those flags, we should probably hire people to deliver those flags before they go into the match. So we decided, okay, let's bring in 20 people just for those matches, and let's, you know, all the stadiums have mostly 4 different entrances, you know, north, south, east, and west. So okay, someone said, if we bring 20, let's just put 5 on each of those places. And I said, okay, that's one way of putting it, but why don't I look at the number of people that enter through each of those doors? So maybe we can adjust the amount of people that are delivering flags from one place to the other. And everyone thought, of course, it makes sense. So we saw that north and south, there's many more people entering than east and west. So basically we had, at the end, we said, okay, instead of 5 people, 5 in each place, let's do 6 on top, 6 on bottom, 4 and 4. And everyone said, okay, that makes sense. So that way we can predict and be more prepared. But then I said, why don't we look at the age of the people that enter in each of those places? And someone said, why? Because basically we're delivering the flags based on a QR application. So that way we know if you have taken a flag in previous matches or not. So it's not rocket science. But I believe that those people that are older, and we've got some old people attending on the stadium, 60, 70, 18 years old, that probably is going to take a lot of time for them to find out how to show the QR and so on. So then we saw that on the west stand, we've got people that are really old. So basically, we again shifted, and instead of being 6, 6, 4, and 4, we shifted something like 6, 7, 3, like that, and 4. So basically, we just adjusted, and it was very easy. And of course, it doesn't make a huge difference, but at least we took our time. And again, it was just 10, 15 more minutes to do a couple queries to understand and see that this helps us be more prepared and know more about our people. There's no harm in just doing the study. So that was something that proved to be really effective. And the people that were there, from security guys and operation guys, said, "Oh, this guy knows his ways around the numbers."
Yeah, and like you said, it's not a huge impact in the sense of to the game day experience, but I mean, sport is a game of one percenters. It's that whole idea of that incremental improvement, and I think that something like that, if it means that you have a greater, you have an easier flow into the stadium, especially you say your elderly fans don't feel so rushed and pressured. It means that it really engages the fans so much better, and it centers back on that activation, which is a celebration of the club's centenary. It's the flag, it's all that kind of stuff. And as you said, it's not a huge amount of money or resources to find out that information, and that data's just sitting there. It's freely available for you to use that. So no, I really like that. I really like the example as well, because it also shows that you don't need some epic, expensive technology solution for a kind of really simple problem. So great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's some other kind of highlights of this kind of digital data transformation of the club that you can share. I mean, maybe pre, during, and as we kind of head into post coronavirus, with something that's that jumps out at you.
Yeah, I think this situation, coronavirus, has given us the chance to accelerate everything that we were already doing. I mean, we already did things in the past that were really meaningful and were already big milestones for the club. Like, for example, we delivered our own e-commerce in the last year, so we built our own e-commerce. We also had our contactless ticketing system with QR, for example. Those were okay. And then we also delivered our seat delivery app, where you can order from your seat, trying to avoid queues and you spending time on the queue and missing a goal. Soccer and football, it's just something that happens. You might not even see one goal or just one goal during the match. We don't want you to miss that, or not buying a Coke because you want to watch the full game. So those were done in the past, but now we find out that coronavirus has given us the opportunity to basically accelerate all those things. Football is kind of traditional, so you cannot impose new technology on the fans. Otherwise, they're going to feel you are trying to modernize and way ahead of what they believe is a traditional sport. So we, for example, have been finding, we've been having a lot of trouble to try and migrating to contactless ticketing, for example. And now coronavirus, for example, gives you the ability of saying, this is more safe, guys. Going with your phone is much more safer than having this ticket or having this paper ticket, whatever, that makes you go into the stadium. Same thing with deliveries, food delivery. If we can avoid people going to the food and beverage stores and making queue and not respecting the security distance and so on, if we've got an app for that, we should try and move that from being recommended to, I'm not saying mandatory, but maybe making it a policy, saying this should be the policy from now on. Of course, there's always, you have to think on older people or non-technological people and so on, but the policy should be this. And that should be the exception, the way we see that. So coronavirus has given us the chance to move those things that we already did in the past, which are really beneficial for everyone. It's just that in the past, if you were to make those a policy and move those from a recommendation to an obligation, you would have been really, it would have been really difficult to defend that in such a traditional sport.
And did you find that, I know you went cashless in your home stadium, Mestalla, who, as you mentioned in the intro, 97 years old, inaugurated in 1923. So pretty much as traditional as they come in terms of stadiums, and then that shift to cashless. How is that received, and is that one of those things that like all those kind of criticisms or issues you think will be dissipated by what you just spoke about with coronavirus?
Well, yeah, that's just one more example. Here we use this time for going cashless, not only in the stadium, but also on the stores and every place where you can pay at Valencia CF. It's not a big deal in terms of you don't need that much to go cashless. It's just perhaps a matter of you deciding to do that and everyone agreeing in the club, from the finance people and so on. But basically now is the new normal. I mean, everyone has paid. Everyone pays now. Even the supermarket, €1, $1 is being paid on contactless and cashless. And the reason is that now it's safer to do that. In the past, maybe only early adopters and people that did not like cash were doing that. I don't know. I think in our case it was 60% cash, 40% non-cash in our stores. And now, not making it an obligation but a policy, we have achieved with this statement that you talk about 92% versus 8%, 92% being cashless and 8% being cash. So it's people have understood, and we have just jumped on top of the wave. That's the way we say in Spanish, and that wave is coronavirus, in fact, that has made all this digital transformation in the people.
Yeah. Well, are there other kind of innovations that you've been eyeing, I mean, across any area, fan experience, business intelligence, ticketing, that you are now looking to accelerate?
Well, yeah, one of them is the one I was saying, for example, the seat delivery app, for example, that we had. We launched that on January. Of course, people still like to go and queue up and so on. But now it just might be the new policy to do that in the stadium, because if you want to avoid people queuing in the food and beverage stalls, but you've got an app that allows you to not do so, so why should we not just use that app in the near future for any food and beverage stalls, at least while this happens? And also, I believe it's in QR and contactless, ticketless entrances in the stadium and so on. That is something that we are looking to be the new normal. In the past, we had some adoption rate here, but it has more or less been steady since we launched this a couple of years ago. I mean, early adopters and technological people, mainly young kids, have been using that. But of course, older people still like their paper ticket and so on. The season ticket is a paper, and people like having a collection of those throughout the years. So maybe we can just go and have a virtual connection of those, and maybe you can just print those if you like it, but not to go into the stadium, but as a collection piece or memorabilia, which is kind of really something in the sports community. But yeah, that would be our next big thing, trying to switch into definitely ticketless into the stadium. I believe there's a huge win there for everyone, and we could use this opportunity to just make the change.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something I've seen some companies are doing, basically vending machines for your ticket. So you can, your entry is your QR code, obviously from a security and efficiency and a kind of fan experience point of view, and just flow into the stadium so there's not crowds and backing up and all that kind of stuff. But then once you're in, you can scan your QR code at a vending machine and it'll print you out your ticket. So you're not actually handing that around to different people, and also the things around waste, and there's all this stuff about also cashless is preventing fraud, all the additional processing costs of having and moving that cash. So I'm sure that the kind of finance side of the business is pretty keen on some of these innovations. And on that point, is it something that within the club, like where does the kind of ideation come from? Like where does it all flow, I guess? Where is the push and pull of motivations to put these technologies in? Does that center with you, or is it kind of different business units now that you have that data culture will say, well, I've got this problem, can you help?
I think that's exactly how the data culture works. So many people think the data culture works that you should be looking, you should be having an idea, like I want to do this, and then finding the right data that proves that you're right. Here's something I've learned, that if you want to get data to prove you're right, you're always going to find that data, because you can always cook the data to give you and prove that you were right to wherever you like. It's only a matter of cutting and pasting from the right point of the data, right? There's always interpretations in that data, but basically I believe it should be the other way around. People should have a part of the day or of the week to look at the data and look at the patterns that data is showing. And data should be the one triggering this type of questions like, hey, have you realized that we have seen an increase on, I don't know, sales in this type of product? Maybe we should do more of this or just change more of that. Hey, have you realized that we, instead of you coming up with the ideas from nowhere and finding data to prove that, it should be the other way around. You should always keep an eye on data or make the data work for you if you're smart enough to find out this type of thing. So basically, it's a part everyone can just go ahead and get some data. It's something that I might be working on, IT might be working on. We've got IT infrastructure type of team. We've got a very active marketing team. We've got really good people in what we call VCF media, which is the media and entertainment part of the house. I mean, everyone can come along and, hey, have you seen, mainly now, for example, with all the closed doors fan experience proposal that you can see with people zooming into screens in the stadium or so many other stuff. There's many people contributing to those type of ideas. So basically, it's just everyone that stays awake and looks at the data and lets the data trigger those ideas for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, an example of that is lenscf.com, which is the website, it's the public facing digital presence, kind of, I guess, one of the easiest touch points for this digital data transformation. Just recently, I was honored by the Webby Awards. So congratulations on that to the whole team. And so that was in the sports website category, best visual design and experience. How does that integrate with analytics platform? Is it one of those things that, I guess, you've kind of half answered the question there, saying that, well, any part of the organization can come to you and say, we've got a problem that needs data to solve it. How does it work between the design elements and the analytics elements?
Yeah, so thanks for that. Yeah, we did win that trophy, and it was that honoree, the Webby honoree, and it was great. I have to say here that we've got an in-house media team, which is very good. We've got our own design team and media team, which has it has grown a lot and has its own product and entertainment. But we also got our partners in Portugal, which are named Seven Legend. They helped us a lot on this digital transformation, mainly software development and consultancy. And we are really in line with them. They're really great guys. And the way this works is, that is the front end, but mainly the back end, the way that we believe data helps all of this. It's, again, we think that everyone in the organization should have a bit of their mind, even if they work on human resources or finance or wherever they work, they should have a bit of themselves looking at data constantly. So the way we do, we've got a data department. I've got that department. There's 5 guys currently, and what we do is that we try and teach everyone and we give them the opportunities and the dashboards so that they can look at the data and find whatever is most important for them. So we first custom those dashboards for them. So everyone in the organization, if they not have, they can have right now a dashboard or a set of dashboards based on their own vertical business. And what these people do is try and teach those. We call that the data ambassadors. So one part of those guys are data ambassadors. They try and teach everyone on how they can improve their business based on data. And on the other hand, when they go back to their place, they put on the speakers and the headphone, and they work on what we call business insights. So they try and do, those are data science engineer guys, AI masters, and so on. So they try and look at perhaps more hidden patterns on the data that perhaps regular people, just by looking at data at those dashboards, are not going to be able to get. So basically, we do both of those things. And again, media is one perfect example of how we try and use data to trigger that. So based on the media that we publish, either on social media, and get all the engagement and all the different social networks and behavior analytics on our web, we try and custom and understand why as people engage more with this type of content than this other content. Is it because the time of the day? Is it because the day of the month? Is it because the type of content it was? Is it because the brands? Basically, there's everyone, we try and work on and set those KPIs clear for everyone, because I believe that if there's no clear KPIs, we are not sure how we are improving or not. Because if we are not improving, we will also like to know. So basically, it's just a matter of the people working in data trying to show the rest of the organization how they should be KPI focused. And then when they've got spare time, if they've got any, after that, they try and look at hidden, more difficult patterns to identify.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Getting close to our time to wrap on is around KPI, key performance indicators, actually understanding where you're going with the data, because it can be very easy, and part of this data culture is to either come up with an answer that you're looking for, as in massage the data to tell you what you want, or the other way is just measure and report on things that are irrelevant. So that's obviously another part of that data culture. Kind of the final part really is actually returning to the beginning and going, where have we measured ourselves on that? So yeah, it's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Franco. I think we've got some time. You're going to hang around for some Q&A, which will be available in the chat window underneath this or above this, wherever it is, and for a few questions. And I mean, are there any other kind of final short thoughts you'd like to share on
Yes.
this data transformation?
I'd like to say that I'm really happy to be here, so thanks again for that. Also, I'd like to share just couple of thoughts, very fast ones, things that I'm really looking into it right now, and makes me wonder where are we heading, but I think it's gonna surprise us, all of us, is the augmented reality versus virtual reality question. I think, esports are every time more and more similar to the reality. And in the other hand, now that we are going to play some closed door matches, I believe that with the virtualization of the people on the stands and so on, we're getting a point where virtual reality and augmented reality are going to converge and merge somewhere in the future. And I'm looking at that because it makes a lot of sense. Also, I'm really curious about how all these sponsorships are going to shift their strategy and look more into digital activation. I believe that digital activation has always been there, but now again, because of COVID, they have no other way of doing that rather than just by looking at this digital activation. And again, contactless entrance, QR, is already old, and we don't even have that yet in all the stadium. But next thing is supposed to be NFC, and then it's biometrics. But because of this, we might just skip NFC, who knows, and just jump into biometrics. So things are accelerating a lot, and it's a right moment to be ready here and stay tuned, because it's gonna change very, very fast.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time today, Franco. It was great to have you share your expertise, and we look forward to hearing some of your thoughts on the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.